I'm Earl Brown, and welcome to another episode of Tell the Story, a Jazz Journeys production. It's been said throughout the ages that we're all on a journey to uncover and tell a story. A story that might be fresh in our minds, or one that has been left in stones, or lost with traces in sand. Maybe it's staring at us in mirrors as we try to find ourselves. You ended up quitting your job.
Yeah.
Or resigning, as they would call it back then.
We resigned.
Yeah.
Yes, we resigned.
So you did that. You go into music. People are praising you and people are doubting you. You eventually get a recording. Somebody recorded for you on a cassette. You take it from a cassette. You produced it as a CD.
Right.
You produced a few more CDs.
Right.
The next thing we know, you're in Paris. How did that happen?
I mean, it was like, okay, it was a progression. It was more, okay, I quit my job, didn't know where I was going, had some gigs come up, and then I had an opportunity to go to Japan for 6 months. Oh. I had an opportunity to go to Japan, which it was supposed to be a 1 month contract, and it ended up becoming a 6 month contract.
As a performer, as a vocalist.
As a vocalist. I went over there with.
But how did that happen? How
that happened was. God bless her soul, Norma Michaels, she's gone now. She's a good friend and an agent. And she called a piano player that I know about doing this gig in Japan. And he called me. He was like, do you want to go to Japan? I was like, yeah. Well, what? Not rocket science. Like, not only, I need to work, I need the money. Not only that, I dreamt about going to Japan since I was a child. Like when I was like 7, I told my mom, I'm going to Japan when I grow up. And she was like, what alien child are you? Where did you come from? Who are you? Like, I'm going to Japan when I grow up. And she's like, okay, all right. And so that's how that happened. And went and did that gig. My friends in Japan actually recorded my first CD, which is called Denise King, Live in Japan, I Remember You, which I'm actually trying to get remastered and re-released, because it's a great record. It really is. But, you know, we recorded it live, and you can hear the ice machine. You can hear the ice machine in the background and people talking, and you know, and so that was my first recording, and I released that on my own label, Red King Records. And from there, I, you know, went on to come back. Since I knew I could do it once, I knew I could do it again. So the first one was Denise King, Live in Japan, I Remember You. The second one, which really really did well. It amazed me because I produced it independently. Now Ain't That Love, that was the second one. Second one, I wrote every jazz programmer in this country and asked them, may I didn't just send it to them. I sent them a note, personal note. Hi, I'm Denise King. I have a new project, blah, 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 blah. May I send it to you? Would you consider playing it? Every single one of them wrote me back.
Wow.
Every one of them wrote me back. Absolutely, send it to us. And it charted. It charted in multiple markets. I mean, not just charted. It was like in the top 10, top 20. And the only thing that became a problem was I didn't have distribution. Mm-hmm. Nobody could buy it. So they pulled it. But that was a good record. That's still a good record. You know, so that's how that happened. And with with Paris.
Let me stop you for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So I got this. You've got this album, CD. Everybody's loving it. Program directors are playing it. And then they have to pull it because you don't have distribution. How did that hit you? How did it impact you?
I mean, because I was green as grass. It was like, oh well, back to the drawing board. Find distribution. Find someone who can do what you need them to do. And I found, I can't remember the darn name of the label, but I found someone who was willing to pick up the record and distribute it. And that didn't work out. But I kept pushing and pushing. And actually the internet was one of the best things that could have possibly happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can put your own product out in your own way, do your own marketing, your own distribution, find distribution. And it just made it, the internet made it easier for so many independent artists. It just made it easier for us to do what we do. So that's basically what happened with Paris. How I ended up in Paris, I had done Paris. Actually, I had done Paris with. I did background vocals for Billy Paul, and I'm gonna be honest. By the time I finished that tour, I was ready to give Mrs. Jones a decent burial.
No.
Woo, me and Mrs. Jones. But here's the thing. Billy was such a star on a global scale. In the States, you're in the States, you're kind of like a loaf of bread. You have a shelf life. You know, like you're only good as your last project. If you're in Europe, if you're a star in 1939, you're a star in 2024. They don't care. You're a star, period. So touring with Billy, I learned that he was a star. I experienced people chasing behind us and chasing behind the limousine. I experienced people, treating him the way that he should have been treated here, revered. And I did that with him. I toured with him. I did France and I did Brazil. But while I was with him, I did some independent gigs. I might have my timeline a little messed up. But anyway, I did a gig in Paris with these poor people. I had sent them so many press kits that they were using the CDs for coasters in the club.
Oh, wow.
I'm only kidding.
Yeah, okay. But I know what you mean.
I had sent them so many press kits. I know that they had a management meeting and they said, let's just hire this woman so she can stop sending us these packages. And so one day I get this call from Donnie Michel in Paris from the club was La Villa, one of the top jazz clubs in Paris at the time. And he says, we have a cancellation. Can you come for a week? And I was like, I'll be there tomorrow. I'll be there in an hour. Yo. And so that's how I ended up in Paris. And I did that engagement for a week. It was sold out. That engagement taught me a different way to look at myself and what I do on a global level. Sometimes when you're on a local, we don't use that phrase because the connotation that comes with that. When you're on a different level, you see yourself differently. And so when I did that performance in Paris for that week, and it was sold out every night, every single night, lines around the corner. And I was like, wow, this is what I do. This is who I am now. This is it. This is what I want. And so I did it the week it was sold out. The management was happy. They were ecstatic. We're going to have you back. This was great. And of course, 2 weeks later, the club closed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I shut that one down.
No.
Shut that one down. So,
No, you didn't. You didn't.
no, I didn't. But what happened, fast forward, that was like in the late 90s maybe. And we'll fast forward to 2008. I'm on Facebook. And I get a message from the piano player that I worked with at that club. And he was like, back in 90 whatever, I worked with this woman named Denise King, blah, 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 at La Villa. Is that you? And I was like,
Wow.
Darn Skippy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's me. He was like, well, here's the thing. If you can get, here's another step out on faith situation. If you can get here, I'll help you find work. If you can get here. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? Because I need to do this, If you can get here, I'll help you find work. And he said, I'm going to put some dates together. And I was like, yeah, right. Okay. And he did. He started sending me these dates that were confirmed. And I was like, well, shoot, I got to get there. Mm-hmm. Once again, I had amassed more jewelry. I had gotten more stuff. And so once again, I sold stuff. I pawned stuff. I got enough money. And always do this if you're an artist. Always make sure that you have a round trip ticket. So you can get there and you can get back home. If anything goes left, you can get back home. So I made enough money to get myself a round trip ticket to Paris and get myself an apartment for 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so with that, I went and got to Paris and did the dates and things just took off. They took off. And we worked together. We toured consistently. We were climbing. I was actually nominated for Best Jazz Vocals in France with the Académie de Jazz in France. And of course, I didn't win. I lost to Gregory Porter. I ain't mad.
I've heard of him.
I ain't mad. Just have my name mentioned in the same breath. I'm good. Mm-hmm. And so we were taking off and climbing the charts and working consistently. I mean, recording a lot of original music and he found me work. He found me a label. And we were really working. But then we had an artistic difference that forced us to go different directions. But it set me up to be in Paris. People they know who I am. They knew who I was. And right after that period, I hit a really nasty speed bump because of this situation. And it took me maybe 2 years to rebuild my career after we parted company. And so, but there were people who were still willing to work with me mm-hmm. and grow with me. And now here I am.
You've been listening to episode 2 of Tell the Story with international jazz vocalist Denise King. But wait, there's much more to the story. That's coming up in episode 3. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button and tell a friend to do the same. By the way, if you like what you're seeing and hearing, be sure to check out some of our other podcasts on this channel.